You call me Raz, your girl call me Theodore. Dodger like a matador. I'm a dog, I'm a Labrador. You look like a poodle. Don't know me, then Google. I pop up just like a strudel and take the whole kit and caboodle. I'm brutal. You're so stupid. You know that they love me like Cupid.
Hey, what's up, guys? Back again with another Spigot episode. This episode, we're going to begin working on my QuarterMaster plugin, which is a plugin that allows you to lock chests and other items or blocks that can keep your items safe so no one can steal them. So this will be a good plugin for survival servers and maybe faction servers, stuff like that, so that players can protect their stuff. So that's the basic explanation of it. And there's also a common plugin called Lockette that used to do that. It was very, very popular when I was a server owner, but now it's outdated, so no one really uses it anymore, as far as I know, at least on the newer version servers. So I want to create a new Lockette, basically, that's not copying the code, obviously, but has even more features that makes it really a better plugin overall. Because there's already plugins that copy the features of Lockette, but it's basically the same plugin. So I want to make a totally new plugin that has those features, but is a little more advanced. So in this case, we're going to be using a GUI system so that we can, whenever a player looks at a chest and they do /lock, a GUI will pop up asking them if they want to lock it. They click yes, it'll lock it, and then they can also pull up a GUI manager to manage the lock, like set maybe a password for it, set who can access the lock, stuff like that. So it's basically a menu for the lock and just some more advanced stuff that makes the plugin more enjoyable for the player. So yeah, hopefully you're excited for that. I've been working on this plugin for a little bit. But the main issue I had is storing the data, because you need to store the lock's location, the player who owns the lock, and all that fun stuff. And I was originally using the YML files, you know, custom config files to store the data. Each player had their own custom config file. And that was really good for storing data, but when it comes to retrieving the locks from the data from the files, it's really hard to do because you can't cycle through each of those files that easily than what you could do with an actual database like MySQL or even a MongoDB, which we're going to be using for this plugin. So for the first part of this plugin's development, we're not going to be using YML configuration. I mean, of course, there's still going to be a config file with some basic options, but for storing data for the locks, that's not what we're going to use. We're going to be using a database for storing all the important data that we need to cycle through, read and write, and all that fun stuff. So yeah, I'll be using that first off. That's going to be the main development database thing we're going to be using. But then later on, we're going to integrate MySQL server to this also. So the server owner can choose whether they want to use a MongoDB server or a MySQL server, okay? So that can be very good for the owner because a lot of servers support MySQL rather than MongoDB. So anyway, now that I'm done talking about it, let's try and set it up, okay? So we're going to make a new plugin here, So new project, Minecraft obviously, and we're going to select Spigot right there. Alright, set our group ID to me.codysimpson. I'm just going to take a swig of my chocolate milk real quick, 1 second. Delicious. Anyway, so now we're going to give it a name. We're going to call this QuarterMaster. I already have the actual plugin that I worked on before. It's called QuarterMaster, so I'm going to call this one that we're working on for the series QuarterMaster YouTube, because you can't have two projects with the same name, obviously. So now what I want to do is fill in some details like that, like the description. So for the description, I'll just say a nice plugin, and I will say a plugin for keeping your valuables safe or something like that. We're probably going to change that later on, but just for filler, we're going to leave it like that. And then authors is going to be Cody Simpson. And then, and then the website, we'll put my YouTube channel, so youtube.com/Illuminati Productions. And it's Illuminati Productions because that's the old channel name. If you don't know, if you're an OG, you would know that, but yeah. Anyway, so click next now. Oh wait, so insert comma as a separated list. Alright, so we just need to do that so it thinks it's one name. Okay, so QuarterMaster YouTube is the name, and there we go. And now everything's going to load up for us so we can begin working on the plugin. There we go, so enable auto import, you always got to do that. And let's open this up a little bit. Let's clear some space also on the side here. Source, main, Java, and then we have our main package here. So QuarterMaster YouTube, perfect. And let's think about let's add two packages here real quick. So new package, and we're going to say commands. And then we're going to add one more for the time being. We're going to call this listeners. Where we're going to put the listeners, obviously. And right off the bat, we have to think about how we want to start doing this. And the first thing that might come to mind is, just let me explain this first, actually. For this first episode of this little couple part series for this plugin development, we're going to only allow storing of chests. So you can only lock a chest is what I meant to say, but later on we're going to allow them to lock doors, lock like all the other new items that Minecraft has for storing items. So yeah, just to keep it simple, we're going to be doing chests for now. So what I think the first step should be for this plugin is making a command called /lock. So if the player is looking at a block or a chest and they do /lock, it should bring up the interface asking the player if they want to lock that chest, okay? So we're going to call this lock command. All right. Cool, so we're going to make this into a command real quick. So implement, there we go, command executor, all right. Public void on, not that, public command, give us some space here, always like to do that. And let's get an instance of the player, obviously, so, well, no, yeah, okay, so we want to check and see if it's a player execute command. So if sender is instance of player, there we go, and then player is equal to player sender. All right, because we're basically just casting sender into a player object. Of course, you should know that by now. But yeah, after we got that, what we want to do is if the player does /lock for this command, we want to see what block they're looking at. And if that block is a chest, then we want to ask them if they want to lock that chest, right? So first we need to determine, or let's make an instance of block so that we can store the block they're looking at if we determine if it's a chest or not. So make sure you get the block from Spigot, or bucket in this case. So block target is equal to, and actually we'll just leave it uninitialized for now. So we first need to check and see what the block is that they're looking at when they type the command. So we need to do, well, there's actually a special method for that. It's called P, or, well, P is for player. Actually, well, yeah, we'll change this to P because that's easier to type. So if P dot, and we can get the block that they're looking at, right? That they've selected with their cursor. So P dot get target block. And you have two options here, or three in this case, but two options for the method name. So you have get target block, which is going to return a block, and then you have get target block exact, which is also going to return a block. But you have to try and determine which one is right for you, obviously. So this one is asking for two parameters, something for the material, transparency, or whatever, and then you have get target exact, which is only asking for the distance. And the max distance is just how far you want to be looking for that block. Because if you think about it, a player can be looking, like, let's say a player is on a giant mountain, okay, and their cursor is not on a block under them, but it's on a block like way far away. That means that the player can be targeting a block, but if we set a max distance, it's only going to identify that block as targeted if it's within a certain range. So actually, I'm just going to start a Minecraft real quick so I can show you in a more detailed manner how that would work, because I might not have explained it well. So just give me a second, I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm on the server now, my little test server. And yeah, so we want to be able to detect a block that the player is looking at. So let's say I'm right here, okay? Obviously, the block that I'm targeting right now is the block that my cursor is right on top of. So this block right here, right? I just broke it. And let's say I'm not looking at anything right now. That means that the block I'm looking at is null. It's nothing, because there's no blocks up there. Obviously, it's just air. There's nothing. But if I'm looking straight across here, that means that I'm still targeting a block, except that it's really far away, right? So that's why we want to set a max limit or a max distance so that it only looks, or it's only able to target a block that's like within a certain range. Because it's pretty unreasonable that we want the player to be able to do /lock and it can lock a chest from really far away, okay? So we just want to set that little safety so that the player can only find a block within like this distance maybe, right? So /lock, and it should bring up the GUI asking them if they want to lock it, right? Very simple. So that's how this is going to work, okay? So if we pull this back up here, we want to do P dot get target block exact and then provide 5 as the max distance. You can play around with that number if you want to, but I determined that 5 is a good distance for me. So if there is a target block within 5 blocks, it's going to return an instance of that block, obviously, right? But if there is nothing within that distance or something like that, or maybe you're looking at the sky or something like that, it's going to return null. So basically we need to check and see if it's null so that we can not have that exception thrown if it ever occurs. So we just need to make this opposite, really. So if not equal to null. So yeah, so if it's not equal to null, we want to basically go down here and set target equal to p.get target block exact 5. Because we know it's not equal to null, meaning that there is actually a block there, because this means opposite, of course, right? So now that we have an instance of the block that the player is trying to target, we can now do stuff with that block, right? So first we want to determine if it's a chest or not, because we don't want the player to be able to lock, you know, like a grass block or something like that. That doesn't really make sense. So we could do target.getType. So that's going to return the type of the object, like what the material object is. So if we do Control Q, we can see that the getType method returns the material object here. So we can get the material, and then we want to match it with the material for a chest, so that we know we can check and see if it's equal to a chest material. So material.chest. Okay. So equals is how you check to see if two objects are equal to each other, and obviously these two will be if we select a chest, right? So if it's a chest, that means that then we want to ask the user if they want to lock the chest. Okay, so that's what we want to do. We want to ask the user if they want to lock the chest, so that we can lock it or not lock it, right? Because that's what the plugin does, obviously. So anyway, what we want to do now is somehow pull up a menu here, so that when the player runs the command and they get this far, then a menu will pop up asking them yes or no if they want to lock the chest or not. Okay, so we're going to make a separate package called utils that's going to hold all our utilities, just like random stuff that doesn't fit into the other packages. And so we're going to call this one here GUI Manager. So this is going to hold a bunch of methods that is able to open a GUI for a player. So it's just it's a better way to structure your programs so you can easily just do stuff, right? We don't need to implement anything. This is going to be a custom little class here that we're going to use. And here at the top, let's get some values here. So we're going to call this private static inventory ask a GUI. So this is going to be the name of our first GUI. So we want to make a new method called public static, and the reason it's static is because we want this method to be accessible from this class without having to make an object of this class. So we can call this method pretty much from everywhere, also with the public identifier here, or modifier, whatever you call it. So public static void means it's not going to return anything, but it's going to do something. Open ask GUI, and what we want to pass in is a player, because we want to specify what player we want to open this GUI for, right? So player P, and now inside of here we want to now set the value for the ask GUI. So ask GUI is equal to new bucket dot create inventory, and we need to provide an owner, so P. Then we need the size of the inventory, so 9 slots will do. That's the smallest amount you could do, because it's 9 slots per row and 1 row. So now we need to give it a name. So we're going to call this chat color dot dark aqua. That's a kind of a cool color, I guess. And we're going to say lock detected. Lock chest question mark. So yeah, this will be at the top as the title of the inventory, and the player can use that to answer the question. So we need to basically have 2 items within this inventory, one specifying yes and then the other one specifying no. So let's go into Minecraft and try and choose a item that's going to represent the yes block, okay? So let's look through here and see what we can do. Let's think about this. So we're trying to lock a chest, right? So what's a good item that can represent that? There's not really anything, but there's actually kind of a unique item, the Totem of Undying. This little thing here, it's kind of like a magical icon or like totem. So like you could think of this as a thing that magically locks your chest or something like that. So yeah, it's just kind of cool looking. So we're gonna make this our item that represents the yes button. Okay, so let's go back into here, and we can do that by making a new item stack. And so we're gonna call this item stack yes, because it's gonna represent the yes, obviously. New item stack, so we can define what it's all about. So material dot totem of undying, just like that. Pretty simple, right? And now we just provide the amounts. I don't think you have to, but just to dot your I's and cross your T's, just set the amount to 1. And now we can provide some item metadata, like the name of the item and stuff like that. So we're going to do item meta yes underscore meta is equal to yes dot get item meta. So then we could do yes meta dot set display name chat color dot green, oops, not gray, green, yes. Alright, so that's going to be the title of the item within the inventory. So now once we're done with that, that's all we gotta do. So we're gonna do yes.set item meta, yes meta, yes underscore meta, just like that. So then we could do, we want to, okay, yeah, we need to make another item stack for the no option. So item stack no is equal to new item stack. And for this is pretty standard. We don't have to find a custom material for this. We're just gonna use the barrier because it's like a cross out symbol. So that's perfect. So no, and then now we could do item meta no underscore meta is equal to no.get item meta, and then we could do no meta set display name chat color red. We're gonna do dark red actually. Yeah, dark red. No, just like that. So then finally we could do no.set item meta no meta. Okay, cool. And then finally we want to add those two items to the inventory, right? So we're gonna do ask GUI.set item, and we want to set this to the middle of the inventory. So if you pull up a inventory here, so the middle is gonna be right here, right? So that's gonna, or no, we want it to be, since there's two items, we want to fit those two items in the middle. So we want to have them centered right here, one here, yes and no, just like that, okay? So we want to do 0, 1, 2, 3, or yeah, 0. So we want to do 0, 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5 for the second one. So the yes item is going to be in the third slot. So 3 yes, and then the ask GUI set item 5 no. So the no item is going to be in the fifth slot, or the sixth slot, but the fifth index basically. And then after that, yeah, that's pretty much it for that. And yeah, so whenever we call the ask open GUI, we need to provide a player, and that's player. And that player is going to have a GUI open for them on their screen, asking them if they want to lock the chest, so yes or no, and they can click either one. So basically we need to go back to lock command here and do GUI Manager, reference the class that we just created, dot, and open ask GUI. And the reason we could do that is just because we made this a static method, meaning we can do that. Or yeah, so you get the point. So yeah, we just need to pass in player, and it's going to open the GUI for the player. So yeah, that's pretty cool. We already did a lot of good stuff, so let's try testing it out just to see what we got so far. So the first thing I want to do is register this command here. So git command lock.set executor new lock command, just like that. Really simple. So now we also need to go into the plugin.yml and then create the command there. So commands lock description, lock a chest or something, whatever. Yeah, so that's all we need for now. So we're gonna do, well, yeah, we'll just use Maven, and we're just gonna use Maven instead of the artifact because we're gonna integrate MongoDB, and we have to use Maven to use MongoDB, so that's why we're just gonna get used to using Maven. Okay, open up Target, copy this, go back and paste it just like that. So now we can reload the server, so /reload, or just reload in this case. And yeah, so now it says enabling QuarterMaster YouTube, so it works correctly. So let's try it out, okay? So we need to place down a chest, or no, we'll just do /lock, and nothing happens because we checked and see what block we're targeting. So now let's try doing it to a chest, /lock, and nothing happened. Oh, I know why. It's because in the method that we have over here, we never set it to open the inventory for the player. So we can do p.open inventory, ask GUI, just like that. Okay, that's gonna fix it for us, I believe. So I'll be right back. All right, so let's test it out now. So we'll do look at the chest, and we'll do /lock, and now we see this here. Perfect. So it says lock detected, lock chest question mark, and now we get two things here, but this is the wrong item. It looks like. I think we said it's a barrel instead of, yeah, we said it's a barrel, not barrier. My mistake. So barrier. There we go, so that's going to fix that for us. But anyway, we can see that it worked. Otherwise, we see lock detected, lock chest, and now we can select yes or no. Obviously, nothing happens when we click on it because we haven't set an event that handles all that. So yeah, one further modification I want to make is we want to fill all the empty slots with like glass or something so that it looks better, like just more filled in instead of like this. Okay, so we're going to do that. And there's a really easy way to do that. It's just by making a for loop here. So for int I is equal to 0, I is less than 9, because the 9 is the length of how many slots we have. So it's going to cycle through each slot basically, okay? So when it cycles through one slot, we want to determine if that slot has a block within it. So get item, and then I for the index. I for the index, and then is equal to null. So if that item is equal to null, meaning there's nothing in that slot, we want to set that slot to have an item of some kind of glass or something like that. So and then we want to set the slot, of course. So I is the slot, and then new item stack. Oops, new item stack. Material, and we're gonna do a glass. And let's do gray glass, or no. Okay, let's do a gray stained glass, or gray stained glass pane. So we want to. So just to take it to the next level of awesomeness, we're going to use a glass pane instead of just a glass block. So that's going to look way better than it did before. So I'm going to show you how that looks. Alright, I'm back. So I'm reloading now. And now let's test it out. So we're going to do it on a grass block. Nothing happens, obviously. But now let's do it on a chest. And boom. So now it says lock detected, lock chest question mark. And right off the bat, we can see it looks way better in my opinion, at least. It's more filled in. You know, you see some, this looks cool, okay? So yeah, that's pretty cool. But we also have the barrier here, yes, no. And we want to set it up now so that, first of all, they cannot move stuff, but also so that they can select the items and then something happens, right? So we need to make a listener class for that. That's going to handle all the menu interaction, okay? We've done that before, but let's get started, okay? Let's call it menu listeners. That's a good name, I think. So menu listeners, because it's going to handle all the menu related stuff. Implements listener. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. So now we want to do event handler public void on menu click. And we want to do inventory click event because we want to check and see, or we want the inventory to be clicked on. So whenever they click on an item in the inventory, we want to handle that basically. So we're gonna get the player who clicked on it. So and then e.get who clicked, so we can get the person who clicked on the inventory. Pretty simple. What's the problem here? Oh, human. Okay, so cool. We just need to cast it. So player. Awesome. All right. So the first thing we want to do, let's think about this. We want to check and see which inventory they clicked on because there's many different inventories. There's the inventory for the player by default. There's another chest they could open at any time. There's a bunch of different stuff they can open, right? So we want to check and see if it's the inventory that we just created within here that we just selected so that we can handle it. We don't want to do anything for another inventory that's not related to this plugin, right? So we're going to do if e.getView.getTitle, and then we're going to do equals ignore case, and we just need to get the name of what we have here. So we're just going to copy all of this right here and throw it in here. Perfect. So now it's going to detect that. If it matches the title of the inventory, that means that we're working with the correct inventory for this plugin. So e.set canceled, first of all, is what we want to do, which is basically going to make so that the player cannot move items around in the inventory. And now we also want to check and see what item they clicked on, right? Because we want to handle it if they click yes, if they click no. We want two different things to happen depending on what they click. So we can do if.e, and then we can do e.get current item, so the item they clicked on pretty much, .get type to get the material object equals. So we could see if it equals material.totem of undying. So if they clicked on material totem of undying, that means they clicked the yes button, obviously. So we went to p.send message, creating a new lock, ... And then after that, we want to create a new lock for the player. Create a new lock for the player, okay? But otherwise, if we do else if e.get current item .get type equals material .barrier, we want to then, we just want to close the inventory, right? Because once they click no, that means that they don't want to do anything further, so just close the inventory and they're done with that issue. But yeah, so that's good. Now we can handle and create a new lock here in this top one here. But actually, before we do that, we also want to check and see if the e.get current item .get type is equal to null, so equals null. And we have to handle that null exception if it ever happens. So that's just one way you can handle the exception. So for example, if they click a block of air or an empty slot, that's basically going to return null, so an exception would occur if we don't have this here. So just having this will mitigate that issue, make sure that we don't have a null exception, which is very annoying. So all we got to do is return Really simple. Alright guys, so I'm actually done with this episode. I decided to end it early because, well, I actually did finish this episode. I recorded another hour today, but as I checked the recording after I finished, I realized that I stopped at 4 minutes into the recording. So I just recorded, or I didn't record. I was talking to myself for an hour, so I'm really annoyed right now. But I realized the video itself that I have from last night is already really long, so I'm just going to cut it here. And then the next episode, we're going to continue working on the plugin, and I added a lot of stuff, so I have to re-record that. But yeah, I'm going to do that for you, and hopefully I don't sound too bad in this last part of the video. I realized I sound really tired, because I was really tired last night. But yeah, anyway, just wanted to let you know, that's why it's cutting off so abruptly, but I was going to add more stuff like the MongoDB stuff after this. So hopefully you're excited for the next episode. If you like this episode, just let me know. If you don't like it, let me know. Just let me know any feedback that you might have for me to improve on this, besides it being awake. But yeah, that's about it. I hope you're excited for all these new features I'm going to be adding, because this is going to be a plugin that we're going to be working on for a long time. Well, not for a long time, but it's going to be a big project for us, our biggest project so far, and we're going to add a lot of features. So if you have any idea for any features that could be added to this plugin, just let me know. I'll happily consider them. So just go ahead and join our Discord server. We have a Discord server in the description below, so you can join our Discord server, leave suggestions for me, ask questions there for if you need any help on anything. We have a community of about almost 500 developers who will be happy to be your friend if you don't have any friends, or help you out with any coding problems. So just join. It's a good place to be. And if you want to support this channel, you can click the join button below this video, and you can join this channel as a member for $1, $5, or $10 a month, and you can cancel anytime. So yeah, if you can't do that, that's fine. If you don't want to, that's fine. I just enjoy your support nevertheless. But if you want to support me, that's one way to do it. But that's it. So if you like this video, leave a like. If you want to see more, subscribe, and peace.